Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. Great. Listen to any good podcasts recently?
Other than this one, no. I have my go-tos that I like to listen to. This Week in Startups, All In.
Is that still like 5 or 6 days a week?
Yeah. Well, Jason's now doing. It's 5 days a week. I think he's going to cut down to 4 at some point. Just he's
Is
got a
the
lot on his.
NPR lady still associated with that show?
No, she.
Mollywood?
Yeah, she dropped.
Huh.
Just because Jason's time's being consumed, and he wanted to cut back so that he could focus on some other things. And I guess they agreed to part ways. Um,
Amicably.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I've never used that word.
Well, you used it in its proper. Yeah, you did well.
I appreciate that. How do you define a branding? Like when you're looking at stuff, like do you think about that? Like, okay, like This Week in Startups is this, the Fervent 4 is this, Something on the Water is that, the Buffalo Bills are this. How do you define a brand?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess, it's how people see, how people feel when they see your company, or I guess the interesting thing is if you aren't creating a brand, the brand is going to be created, whether if you like it or not. So,
So like
yeah,
the
I guess
reactions,
that the feels, yeah, with
the reactions of individuals when they hear, see, view,
yeah, that's right.
read,
How
whatever.
about you?
No, I mean,
Friends?
that's what I was going to say, the reaction that people get to a thing, right?
Yeah,
And positive or negative or whatever. I think that's probably the immediate thing.
yeah,
I don't think I think some people would say it's, like the logos and all those things. I don't personally believe that. I think those are far less important than the reaction that someone gets when they learn about your thingamajig.
yeah. It's interesting because, like, you have brands, like probably one of the most iconic brands is Apple in terms of market cap, all
Knew you
that
were going
kind
to
of good
say that.
stuff. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just, but they are not very social in terms of interacting with people. But
No, but there's definitely a reaction that you have when you see that.
yeah, but we
Right.
can, yeah, be curious to hear what our guest's take is on this, because we have the branding icon.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for having me on the show. Very excited to be here.
Yeah. How are you?
What an iconic name.
Yeah, I'm trying to stick with the brand of it all, but Brandon, you had it right. It's a feeling. I like to describe it as a texture. It's what people feel. It's the depth of what your nostalgia is. It's your following. It's your consumer journey. It's all of those things wrapped up into one, and that's why I created the Iconic Group, or Integrated Consistent Opportunity, using nostalgia, innovation, and cultivation. I know it's a long name, but it's all actually a trade secret process that I created a while ago. After working in television, newspaper, and radio sales, I realized that there was a need to create brands from an innovative concept, and that was really important to me as a sales executive. So I created Iconic. Iconic is the actual process with the project management foundation. And it's a little intense, and, it's kind of tedious to say, but, the paperwork when I fill it out for the job is a lot of hand cramps, but it's worth it because, like I said, it's my trade secret. But you're absolutely right. Branding is more than just logos. It's more than the color scheme. It's more than personal branding. Actually, personal branding is just a leg of branding. So there's a lot of different branding strategies out there. A lot of people don't recognize that. Like, there's a lot of different marketing strategies. There's a lot of different publicity tools and techniques. And all of those things I put together to create kind of a tailor-made campaign for the brands that I work with. So both of y'all, right?
Okay. An acronym?
Yes.
Good job, Tim. An acronym in a Navy town. Go figure. We don't need to go anything other than that. Okay, but here's something that's interesting. You just said TaylorMade, which is a golf company, but you used that in a way that was like that. So I'm interested in why people say TaylorMade. Like, what did they do to get people to think like that? Because you just did their job. Same thing with the Xerox. Why don't you go Xerox that? You're not actually Xeroxing that. You're making a copy of the thing, maybe in a Xerox printer, but I always forget what this is called, but you're doing that thing as the company has branded themselves, whatever that thing is. But TaylorMade is not. It's a golf company, right? I mean, it's like why?
Yeah,
why
but
Well,
I think that phrase came before the golf company.
right. Came before the golf company for sure.
Did
Well,
it?
when I say
Figure it
TaylorMade,
out. Let us know, Andrew. I'm shocked at this.
Well,
but-
I mean, people had tailor-made suits and clothing, long before clothing was produced at scale. Would be my take on it.
TaylorMade, as far as the actual definition that I'm using it in, is creating comprehensive branding, or to put it into more simpler terms, public relations campaigns that are specifically for this business. And so that's why the term iconic came about, because what I'm doing is I'm creating pinpoints, pressure points. I'm answering pain points, and I'm creating tailor-made turnkey campaigns for specific businesses. That way, that business can never be like anyone else's. So it's tailor-made, and that's why it's iconic, if that makes sense.
Have you always had that brain to make acronyms out of something? I mean, that's in terms of acronyms goes, that's pretty impressive.
I've always wanted to separate my clients from the rest. And, it's kind of difficult to do that when you're working in television, because let's be honest, a lot of the commercials that we see out here and a lot of the programs that's created, and I'm going to say specifically in the Hampton Roads area, are not tailor-made, and they're not creative. They're old school. They're a little rinky dinky, a little janky. And I didn't want my clients to come across that way during their actual television campaign, because of course, when you're doing television, you have to think about your digital marketing. You have to think about your traditional marketing. You have to think about any publicity tours that you're doing. And people want to grow. So you're going to have to do that in such a way that has more fabric and more substance. And I need to be sure that my clients have more substance so that they can stand out from their competitors.
Tim, you know what we need for this show? Do you ever watch What Happens Live, the Andy Cohen show on E? No. Okay. He's the guy who created all of the shows that everyone hates, Real Housewives and all that stuff. But while I don't like those shows, I respect him, and I think what he's done is he's really fulfilled a need that people were looking for trash TV, and congratulations to that. But he does this thing on his live show where he has guests, and there's like a word of the day. And the word of the day, it's like a drinking game. So like if that word is said, you drink. And so like we needed to figure out like a word of the day and then try and say it as many times as possible as a drinking game for people, and today's word would be iconic, I think. I don't know, but
and be drunk before noon.
Yeah, it'd have to be beer. Yeah, no tequila.
I'm curious though, Pamela, in terms of like talking about the commercials and everything, why do you think that is the case in this area? Is that because we're just a smaller market and we can't hire the talent, or what do you see the reason behind that?
Well, to speak on talent, people are going to put themselves in a box to get a job. And so a lot of the talent that's here, they want to step outside of the box. I've talked to many reporters, even some journalists, writers, and, just being in the creative community, in the production community, in the PR community. People want to step outside the box, and they can have the conversation behind closed doors. But once they get to their paycheck, they're not going to speak out against them paying their bills and getting their rent and their mortgage paid. So stepping outside of the box takes a risk, and a lot of people don't want to take that risk. And I understand it, but I just am not that way. I'm a disruptor by nature. I've always been that way. So, it's taken me some years to understand how to be the disruptor, but still be a businesswoman at the same time. But because I'm a disruptor, because I have no problem with breaking the code and speaking against the boringness that sometimes happens in this community, I'm a little bit of a troublemaker. So we just gonna leave it at that. And I have no problem with being a troublemaker. But some people that's in the area, some business owners are just really used to the fabric of keeping it safe and, whatever works for their customer. They don't want to scare off the customer. They don't want to scare off their employees. And even employee branding is such a thing where you excite the employees and you inform the employees and you retain the employees to believe in your product so that they can give back in such a way. So it's so many different layers to it.
Yeah.
People aren't interested in stepping outside of that box. And I think the sooner that we do it, the sooner that we can have more entertaining television, more entertaining programs.
Yeah, specifically from the local area, and Zach, you can probably add on to this too. It just seems like this is a place where people go to start their career. We don't necessarily recruit somebody that has been at a similar market or that is willing to break the mold. They come here and start. It seems like a lot of them are fresh out of college, so it's very, very textbook as opposed to disrupting or trying to be the anomaly.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said of there are places where certain creative is created, right? There, like a lot of movies are created in certain areas, right? There, if you think about creative places, I mean, no dig to this, but I don't think if you were to put New York, LA, San Francisco, Austin, Miami, and then Norfolk, Virginia Beach in the same thing, people would probably say those are on different wavelengths.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. Doesn't mean that there isn't some talent here. There clearly is some sort of talent here that's been able to do that. But I don't think from a branding perspective, this area has been branded as that thing. And I don't know that there ever will be a conscious effort to do that. I know that when you think about some of the agencies that are here, I don't know that they have a hard time selling talent to some of the places. I've always heard that the biggest challenge is, okay, what happens if I don't want to work there anymore? Where do I go next?
Yeah,
and do I have to move somewhere? Right. And I think some people think about that. It's like, okay, well, if I'm in a well-populated area of creatives, then there's a well-populated area of businesses that I can go to if the fit isn't right, even if it's just the fit isn't right, and it's just like, oh, I don't like this, or I want to make more money or whatever. If there's only a handful of those businesses that those individuals can go to, that can be problematic. I think you could say the same thing about the developer community here, right? I remember back in the day, a lot of them were very .NET based because that's what a lot of the
military,
is. But a lot of consumer-based applications that are created in the software world are not necessarily .NET. So you have a huge population of one type of developer, but the creative side, the consumer side developer is actually typically coding using different platforms. And so, yeah, good amount of people here, but the style of app that wants to be created here doesn't have that. And so, at least not to the density that people are. So I think there is, there's problems like that, that can be a problematic thing.
Yeah, I think there's several industries that suffer from it. I know particularly in public relations, and far as being an African-American woman in public relations in the Hampton Roads community, there is probably a good two that I can think of right now. One that's been in the industry for decades, and she's amazing, but she's more in the public sector, government. And then another that kind of just uses the name and calls herself a brand and uses the name publicist, and people believe it because they really don't know what a publicist is or what public relations is or even what branding is. This term just came popular some years ago. So people didn't even understand that they were a brand when they started to create a business or even created their personal brand or even believing in their resume or cover letter. That's a start of a brand. That's a start of your personal brand. That's a start of your employee branding. So and that's what I feel kind of my duty is being a business owner in this area, Although I title this company as an innovative branding company, I like to eventually turn it into a branding studio. Everybody wants to see their business grow. I want to see my business grow, but I want to see my business grow in the Hampton Roads community. I don't understand why, it's people like why it's so hard to get a job in PR in this area. It's ridiculous. Like, and a lot of the PR companies are just super small, super tight community. You have to fit inside this mold. And I guess, I'm a little bit different. I got blonde hair, red lips. I have an LLC. I think I'm a little bit different. And then when they meet me, they're like, whoo, okay, like she's a lot to take in. I'm not fitting inside the box. So that's why I created my own situation. But, I think that what's really essential to Iconic is to be able to give back to other minorities in this industry, in the Hampton Roads realm. And I don't think it's difficult because I talk to people all the time, particularly college students that are interested in public relations, that are interested in television, they're interested in branding, but they can't get hired because they don't fit the mold. And it's really crazy to me. So I'm trying to break.
It's interesting you say that, Tim. Do you have something you want to say on that?
No. I'm digesting. Go ahead.
Because in the broadcast world, I think it's very diverse. I think you can make the argument that those on TV is very diverse. Maybe more minorities are on TV than
ever before.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But when I say television, not necessarily news broadcasts. I think there's so many opportunities to create television that doesn't have to do with being a journalist.
No. I'm just saying, but people might put that in the same role. From a PR perspective, you said there's two women that are local. Is that what you said? That have their own PR firms, and they own their own PR firms. Is that what you said?
They own it, and it's a third one I can think of. But it's just this has been for years though. Like this isn't like I'm watching the industry. I have my finger on the pulse of what's happening, and it's been a little trickling here and there. But I've had Iconic since 2011, and it's the same 3 women since then.
Do you think that just other women don't want to start that style of business? Because I mean, there is that opportunity. There is that aspect where maybe that's not a business that people want to.
Well,
start.
I think that. Well, and that's a good question because in particular, what I do is being a branding consultancy. It's totally different from being just a public relations. I do a PR, but I'm not just PR. My focus is branding, marketing, PR, publicity, and sales. That's it. That's all my campaigns are, and some business development. Some of the companies are just more public sector and government public relations. Some people are a publicist. Some people, so it's so many different aspects. It's almost like, well, under the PR umbrella, you can kind of pick out what you want to focus on and create your own categories out of that. But with that being said, under the PR umbrella, there are 3 women I can think of, and it's been that way for a while.
This whole thing's really, I think it's an interesting challenge, dilemma, whatever word you want to use. But I'm just trying to think, what's the solution? How do we change this? Because it seems like it's really, really difficult for larger businesses here to support the smaller businesses. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, then you have those small businesses like, and you're included, you go outside of this region and market yourself outside of this region to get businesses or to generate that revenue. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, you're a company like, we can use Grow as an example. Mm-hmm. Now they're too big and none of the local businesses can afford them because they are, they're working with national brands. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's a really, really interesting situation that we're in, and I don't know how do we change that?
So it's going to have to start with education first and getting people to understand the different aspects of public relations, because if you don't understand kind of what your gift is, like my gift, for instance, is I come up with ideas. I know how to come up with ideas to stand out, and that's really, well, honestly, one of my previous clients, Ali Shafai, and he's still my friend to this day, suggested I started a business when I was at WTVZ. This was 2011, right? And I was like, I'm not thinking of starting a business, but it was instilled in me that, hey, you're helping me change my brand And mind you, I didn't call it a brand then. I didn't even know that's what I was doing. But you're helping me change my business, and I can see that there's a future in this. So why don't you do this for other businesses? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it was instilled in me. What it has to be is an education into the sector of marketing, dealing with different public organizations, different professional organizations, going inside of these businesses, going inside of these schools, creating programs. And I'm not just going to, say that here and not say that I don't have my own programs that I want to create. I have them all created and everything already created and ready, to be honest with you. I'm just waiting to press go so that I can start developing more public relations professionals and really innovating this craft. One of my favorite companies, Translation, with Steve Stout, is kind of one of the pinnacles of what I would like to create from a business perspective. His frame of work, his power, his power of like clientele with his book of clientele is amazing. And Steve Stout's been in the industry for a long time, and this is more the music entertainment rector. But all that to say, you really have to start with educating people like, hey, you can do this. Or Pam is being successful in this realm. Let me follow behind her footsteps. Let me join her program. And so I think that that's really the bottom line. Have people created what I've created or what I want to start? No, but I just got to start it. Like, I got to press go. And the thing about it is it makes me nervous, to be honest, and I think every entrepreneur has that fear factor of like, what happened if it sucks or it fails or, but I have it in the bag and it's going to happen, but it has to be education first. It really does. Like, people have to understand that you have the capability of being an innovator, a disruptor, a brand creator, or even helping other brands and helping them build business from a 2024 perspective. And that's okay. You don't have to fit the mold that everybody wants to put you in here.
Yeah, we lost 7 months already.
What do you mean?
You just said 2024.
I know. That's my frame. I'm always around the corner. Always around the corner.
Yeah. So with that education piece, you have a new founder that approaches you. What are the things that you, and they say, hey, we want to start a brand. What are some of the things that you say, this is where you, step 1, step 2, step 3?
So, of course, it's curiosity, right? So when I say integrating consistent opportunity, we have to find out where's the opportunity in the business that you want to build. So we have to do some market research. We need to understand your industry. We need to know how far out you can build your services. As far as location is concerned, we need to talk about the basics. Then we need to talk about nostalgia. Why did you create your brand? One of the things that I used to do, and I still do, which is, like I said, is part of my trade secret, is to bring out the foundation of who you are. And I ask key questions to build out that foundation. Once you have that original DNA of what you are and why you created your brand, then we go into innovation. Now, how can we make it different? How can we use this foundation that you have, your original DNA, innovated and cultivated to make it work for everyone? And once we find out those key points, once I ask those key questions, I'm able to take that, use my brain to create events, to create public speaking engagements, create publicity tools and techniques, to understand your fears and your boundaries and limitations and what I can do to make sure that you're safe in creating your brand. All of those things I take into consideration. I have over 30 services that I take and I pinpoint to create those tailor-made campaigns. So it's all a formula that I created to make sure that I'm bringing out the original DNA. And once that's done, I'm able to make you stand out. Like, there's no reason for you to even worry about my consultancy, to even work with my consultancy, if you're not going to stand out and be an iconic. I want high ticket clients. I want clients that's going to be like, okay, I'm trying to make 6 figures in the next 6 months. What do we have to do? And that's what I want to do. That's why I want it to be iconic. I keep saying the word. I would be drunk by now if we did that game. But beer, though, beer, not tequila.
Tequila's tomorrow. May the 4th be
Tomorrow
with
is,
you.
yes.
Yeah,
Right.
tomorrow's tequila. Cinco de Mayo.
True.
The last Mexican beer. Is that what it's called? Mexican beer? They call it that?
Cerveza? I don't know.
Yeah, but is it called Mexican beer? Is it?
I have no idea.
Like a Corona is a Mexican beer, right?
Probably so.
I
Is that
think
correct terminology? I guess that's what I'm getting at. Am I whatever?
they did a terrible job branding.
I believe that is the acceptable way to describe Corona as a Mexican beer. If it's not, please don't cancel me for that. I mean, come on, there are other things I've done that are far more better than that. Anyway, I'm interested in something that I no longer can remember, so I'm going to ask you a different question.
Okay.
It's about standing out. And you said some businesses locally are not necessarily, maybe it's from the creative perspective of the companies that they're working with, but their stuff is subpar in your mind. It's just boring, right? Obviously, I think that doing things in a gregarious, outlandish, ridiculous way is that's my strategy on how to get out and to stand out. When you are selling that vision to someone that is a little apprehensive, is that a red flag for you that says, hey, this isn't the right style of client? Or what do you do? Because I've consulted with people that I know that if they were just a little bit different, that could be the thing. Like I literally saw someone last night at Jake Main's happy hour and he was wearing a turtleneck and I was like, is that your shtick? And he was like, no. And I was like, but I think it should be because no one else is going to be wearing a turtleneck. You can be, and he was in a very unpopular business. He financial planner. And I was like, look, everyone hates all financial planners in the way that they market and you go to these networking events and whatever. And I was like, if you can get people off of you being the financial planner and you being the turtleneck guy, and that's a positive thing, a positive spin, that could be your standout moment. He seemed a little apprehensive at that, but he wears them. So I was like, I don't know why you don't wear more of them. But for someone that is apprehensive for a style that they're not comfortable with, how do you handle that? Is that a red flag? Where are you on that?
Well, I used to be like, you would like me to pay? Like you would like to pay me to brand you? I will take your check. Thank you. Not anymore. So I had to learn that maybe it's not the right time for you to work with Iconic if you are not willing to not necessarily stand out, but if you're not willing to answer the pain points that you have a problem with in such a way that's going to make you stand out in your industry, in your market. Like I have to go in and literally understand your consumer journey, your buyer personas. I need to go in and understand your project management. I need to understand your sales. If you are nervous about that and I present this to you, then maybe you're not right for Iconic. But and that's why I had to add business development and sales success to my platform, because it's one thing to brand someone and come up with all these ideas and these events and, create this publicity campaign. It's one thing to do that. But if I can't go in and understand the dynamics of your business, the framework of your business, that's more important to me and more essential than coming up with the ideas. Because you could come up with the ideas and you won't be ready for the work that comes with it if you do not do if you don't handle the foundation, the project management and what you created. So I had to add those things into my pedigree. So at this moment, if people or founders, CEOs, or whoever's the case is uncomfortable with changing those dynamics, then they will not be a good client for Iconic. And that's okay. Come back when you're ready, because I'll be ready to work with you. But I had to learn to not be scared to speak the truth and to let people know, hey, this may not be working for you. You have an employee that is probably going against the brand, or you have a foundation here that in your sales process that isn't working. You don't have certain aspects that's standing out. There's some names, some descriptions that can change. Maybe we need to do a photo shoot. Maybe we need to do multiple photo shoots. Maybe it's so many different aspects of it all that if we can't put it into a framework that works, then that's okay. Like you may not be good for Iconic, but there was a time when I was like, I'll work with you. Like I can brand anybody, but for me to be successful and for my client to be successful, we have to be on the same page, and it's a partnership. And I had to understand that it's okay to say no, and still
say no to drugs.
Okay, like say no to drugs, say no to bad branding, say no to bad sales, say no to bad business development.
That's a good line. Say no to bad branding. I like that.
Yeah, say no, please, gosh.
Iconic.
But and it even breaks down to intellectual property. I'm not an intellectual property lawyer, but there's a lot of people creating digital products. They're creating. They have merch out there. They have ebooks and books and all these things that's happening. And that intellectual property needs to be handled in a certain way, and you have to have that conversation. So yeah, it can get down in the weeds, but that's the reason why the consultancy is built, so I can fill in that void for those business owners that don't know.
Yeah, it's fascinating in the sense of, especially on the founder level, whether if it's self-sabotage or some sort of inferiority complex, that they just will not allow themselves to take on that role of being iconic, embracing that, whether if you like it or not, you are the face of the company, and you've got to, you are the brand, and you've got to keep moving forward. And so many founders, the business fails because they're not willing to embrace that position.
You're right. And on top of that, one thing, I had stopped Iconic for a while because I didn't feel comfortable with doing an a la carte type of marketing campaign where you can kind of pinpoint or kind of pick out some of my services. I want this, I want that, I want this, and I want a little bit of this. And I literally changed the whole framework of everything, and I made it into comprehensive packages. And I worked with a company called No BS Branding in Brooklyn, and she basically trained me for an entire year, like literally for free, which is crazy to me. Her name is Pia, and she's a writer for Forbes, and I've been working with her and her group at No BS Agency. And she taught me that first off, I wanted to change the framework. Second off, working with her inside of this, I've realized that I can create packages that can be best used by my clients for them to get better results. And if they get better results, I get better results. And I had to change the whole framework. And it's like, once you understand kind of how consulting works and how you can create systems and processes inside of your business so that it's easier for you, you get more freedom, you get more money, and then your clients are happy. Like, it's like, it just made perfect sense to me. And so that's just one of those things where I'm like really excited to get back in the fold of things with this new framework, especially starting in the Hampton Roads area, because now I'm going to see how these packages work, and people are going to see why, oh my gosh, pause. Zack, I tell people this all the time. There was this one time, and Ryan, you came and spoke to us. Remember your business class that you used to have? Remember I was there? Yes.
Or Tim?
No, Zack, Tim came to speak once, and that's when I first met you, Tim.
Yep.
But you remember your business class? And
yeah, sure.
You asked
at Hatch?
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't at Hatch. It was at like the downtown Norfolk, inside on Main Street, I think. Anyway, you asked the class what their consulting prices were per hour. Like, what's their hourly consulting? And I didn't want to answer. Everyone was like 150, 215 an hour, like even 90. And I was like, please don't come to me. I was just sitting in the back of the class, like, please don't come to me. And I said $40 an hour. And you were like, what the hell? I was so so embarrassed. But I was like, what did I didn't know, like I had no idea
A lot,
of
yeah.
how to do business,
But that is so common.
but it's
so
so
common.
common. And I was literally the lowest in the class. And you were like, Pam, what the hell? And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so even that being said, I needed to sit back and grow the business the way I knew I could scale it. And so when I talked to Pia and I redid my framework and I started my packages, I know I can scale from there. So it put me into a whole nother frame of mind. But Zack, you started that.
You know, we started the show about podcasts, what I'm listening to. So I just listened to the one Jason had, the founder of Fire Festival on. The guy that went to jail, he served 4 years.
I was about to say, isn't that the one that just like, is it going to do another one?
So he's out now, and he's doing consulting work for marketing work. And Jason asked what his hourly rate was.
What did he say?
Probably a couple grand.
$1,800 an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see. I believe people will pay it when it makes sense. I think when I heard Zack talking about it, I didn't understand if it made sense for me to charge that. But once I heard that the people that were charging more than me were only in business for a year or 2 years, and this was probably I forgot what year that was. Like, I know it was before the pandemic, but I was like, oh, what you don't know, you don't know. And I was literally lowballing myself. But yeah, he was in jail bringing up a brand new formula. I'm sure somebody's going to pay him.
Yeah, I mean, it's the marketing aspect was great. The business execution aspect, not so much. But yeah, and so it was an interesting interview, and he certainly, whether if he likes it or not, he got a lot of name recognition, good or bad, from the time that he had served. But I'm curious what your take is. You're talking about how you have to implement something new, bold, courageous, to be that icon, to stand out. How long do you give that new thing before you determine if it's successful or it's just not going to take and you have to try something different?
Oh, that's a good question. So it's dependent upon. Oh, go ahead.
I'm not even sure if there's a right answer. I'm just curious what your professional opinion is.
I'm interested too, because there's a company about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago that started doing something crazy, and I'll give you their answer afterwards. But I'm interested in Pam's too.
I think that people tend to kill it too quick. But yeah, I'm curious, how long do you give something before you decide to pull the plug?
People do kill it too quick, or they have the expectations, unrealistic expectations, because that's not what marketing is about. You have to change people's minds, and you really, in me speaking about changing the dynamics of your sales and your business development, your intellectual property, your publicity, even, it takes time. And I think one of my mistakes when I first started was that I was over delivering and wasn't getting the results that I knew I should have gotten in 4 to 6 weeks. That's not realistic. My branding campaigns, specifically for like my iconic clients, is a minimum 4 months. And that's with regard to KPIs and objectives and goals. And that's where some of the market research and analytics comes into play, because then I have to talk about numbers, and then I need to talk about what's effective and what's not effective. And those conversations have to be had. And I need to educate and explain it to the client on, okay, this isn't working right here, but let's turn it a little bit. Let's add another turnkey objective here where it's going to be more realistic for you to reach your goals. Marketing has always had an issue with numbers, where you have to explain to the business owner exactly what's happening. Even when you explain it, they still don't understand. So what I've created inside of my campaigns is everyone is a minimum of 4 months. I wanted to do every quarter, but 3 months was just, no, it was just 90 days was just not enough for me. So it's a minimum 4 months for my iconic clients. But for the rest of my clients and some of my other packages, what I'm doing is I'm teaching them what to do when I'm no longer a part of the business. And with that being said, things are on a certain timeline, whereas I create content for you for a whole year, or I'm giving you publicity tools and techniques that last 6 months. So it's this dependent upon the package. But for the clients in particular, that is 4 months, and it's all KPIs, it's all objectives and goals, and it's all marketing analytics on whatever platform that we're using. Even with traditional marketing, I want to know how many people. Sorry, there's a police officer. I live in Portsmouth. Sometimes that's normal. There's a lot of them.
That's the brand? What's the brand behind Portsmouth? Is what you just said.
Oh, they're not ready for that conversation.
And that's what they're trying to change.
You know, that's just too intense right there. I'm not even about to go there because I'm gonna get a phone call.
I do have some controversial topics that I want to talk to you about, but we'll end the show with that maybe.
Okay. But yeah, that's a great question, because people are not the marketing analytic piece. I want to know how many people are coming into your door after the campaign starts.
There's a lot you have to really unpack on that, and I think people aren't actually peeling back the onion in the slightest way properly. So number one is the frequency of that delivery. How often are people even potentially seeing that? Right? Very minimal, right? And so once that person sees that thing, which could so I think I wrote this in Anomaly. If it wasn't, it was in some of the talks I've done since. The only study I've ever been able to see that says how many ads we see a day. Well, Pam, I'll ask you this because I know Tim knows the answer. How many ads do you think you see a day?
Oh, I would say probably a good 30 to 60.
Exactly. So not even close to being right. And everyone's always low. The number is 5,000 ads a day. We're constantly seeing ads. Right? So that's you versus 4,999 others every single day. Now, if you're competing against that, once that ad is actually delivered in front of you, it takes at least 6 times for you to start having that thing registering. Okay, this is what that thing actually is. And then if it fits to what you're looking for, maybe then you'll start to actually get into what it is. So I interviewed, so thinking about those numbers, if all you do is post one thing on Twitter once and you think that you're going to make $1 million on it, but you have no followers, you're not doing anything else around it, it's very unlikely. So I interviewed the founder of 1 Hour Heating and Air. I can't recall his name. So Todd something, I think maybe. And they had started the Bandit commercials. Have you ever, do you remember those, Tim?
Yeah. Oh,
Tim, do you remember those? You look like
I don't know if I do.
Okay. So it was like a redneck HVAC guy was Bandit, and they basically said he was the unprofessional, if you will, like the drunk redneck HVAC guy that you don't want to come to your house. So they hired this company in Austin, and the company in Austin said, you have to give it 1 year for this to start to work. And I remember Todd Kletz, I think is his name, now that I'm thinking about it. He said it took 11 and a half months for the phone to start ringing for those campaigns.
What kind of campaigns were they doing?
Radio.
Oh, radio.
12 months of radio campaigns.
Before. And they do a lot of marketing, and they do, I think they do some outdoor.
They do a ton of different things, and you have to do different
things now. But yeah, it takes a while.
A year.
It takes a while. But it just depends as far as what I do and the services that I give. I'm not even talking about advertising. Advertising is when you do television, you do radio, or you do any print advertising, it's totally different. And that's what a lot of people think of. Like sometimes in publicity, there's so many different ways to stand out. A lot of them just being a little tricky, a little odd, a little scandalous. It's what it is. And a lot of people have to understand like that being salacious and standing out is part of branding. It's part of publicity. And so, yeah, I've talked to the marketing manager at 1 Hour just a couple of months ago, and she was explaining to me some of the things that they have going on. And they're not afraid to stand out, which is, it's the name of the game. So,
Tim, when was the last time you think I was in inside business?
Was it what? Probably when you were on the last when you were on the power list or whatever it was, right?
I would assume that maybe the book, something like that, right? So it's been 4 or 5 years since I've had an article in that. I met some guy last night at an event, and he goes, "I've read about you all the time." I didn't know. He's like, I know everything about you. And I'm just like,
Yes.
so it's been 5 years basically
Yeah.
since I would say 4 or 5 years since any of those things. But that muscle memory came back that he was like, oh, wow.
Right.
And I just laughed. And I was just thinking to
Yeah.
myself, man, this
That's
guy
how
must
it
have
is
been
with me as well. With the whole, the website aspect, it's like, man, but
Oh yeah,
it's
for sure.
I guess we were
I
doing
saw
good
Start
things.
Wheel in the bathroom. I had flyer in the bathroom, and I was like, "That's what I'm talking about." I mean, but I knew you before then. But yeah,
it wasn't me that put it there. I can tell you that for sure. Someone must have just left it behind because they were tired of carrying it, but it worked. So I appreciate it.
It wasn't Hatch. It was, where was it? Percolator.
There you go.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Wow.
That is the new ad for Start Wheel. I think you just like, when you're in the bathroom, look for the flyer. There it is. Here are your event, your Start Wheel events of the week at the end.
Right. Let me make
That's
sure
right.
I attend this event real quick before
Yeah.
I leave the
That's
bathroom.
wild.
I don't think I've laughed this hard on the show ever. That was pretty good. Oh man.
That was probably in too much information.
But
no, that's really. I mean, Zach, a lot of people know you. Like,
Sure.
I'm just saying, like, I'm sure you get it often, but a lot of people want to get your brain too as well. Like, so how do you even handle some of the people that ask you questions? Because you are a consultant. You do kind of
say, here's the fee.
Right.
Let's go to work.
Right. I like
and then they say they're making 40. I say, how much do you charge an hour? And they say $40 an hour. And then they curl up in a little ball in the back of the room. The reason, I don't think you should be ashamed of that. I think there's a lot of reasons why people undersell themselves. I think maybe they don't believe they're worth that. I think one of the easiest ways to look at it is, how much money are you making off of your campaigns? At least in this style of business, how much money are you making for those people? Right. And I have some clients that are making tens of thousands of dollars per client for some of their stuff. And they're charging, a handful of dollars basically. And I'm like, you really need to analyze how you're doing this and establish a number that makes sense for the amount of money, the amount of value you're creating them. Because if you're basically selling them at 2%, 1%, and they're making all this money on you, maybe you should make it 10, 15, 20% of that value.
Yeah, you're wonderful.
Because if you're making them $25,000 a month and you're charging $500 a month, that's a hell of a deal for them.
Right,
maybe they should be charging 5 to 10 for something like that. I think that's more of a respectful number on both parties.
Right.
But that is hard. There's a complex in there. I don't think it's Napoleon. There's some sort of complex and superiority complex, something like that, where
the inferiority complex.
Inferiority complex.
Yeah.
People don't think they're worth it.
Right.
And
right.
I think you could say that to this region. I think there could be an inferiority complex to this region where they're
on the flip side, though,
Wayne's World.
The other part that makes it even more difficult is the fact that with what you're doing, and then like when I just touched on the website aspect of it, everybody thinks they know how to do it, but they at the end of the day they don't have a clue on what they're supposed to be doing. So that said, there could be a natural tendency to be like, well, I gotta generate some revenue. I need to pay some bills, so I need to lower my rate. So I think that's a way a lot of people will go. Whereas it's kind of counterintuitive. Like the more you charge, then the more expectations and results people are going to see. So it's interesting. It's
a starting point, right? But then you got to realize, okay, after I get these 3 clients, I'm going to change my rates again. 3 more clients, change my rates again, because and I think you have to go into it like that, right? It's kind of like the freemium model. Okay, let me test this out first, see if someone likes this. Okay, I'm going to try and convert 5 of these people to a paid number. Okay, I'm going to do it a little higher next time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people.
Let's face it, this area is cheap. This area is super, super cheap.
But a lot of people are building businesses and they're not actually running the numbers correctly to say, hey, like how big is this cap? Right. And the cap is hundreds of people and they think it's millions of people. And it's like, but where are you going to get that? So their numbers make sense if there's a pot big enough, but that pot isn't big enough. And so if they're going to do it for a handful of people, they need to look at those numbers there, or maybe not develop that piece.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I told a couple of people at a class at Hatch about something like that, and they were like, "Oh, we never ran our numbers like that." And I'm like, yeah, you want to make 6 figures in the next 6 months. Here's what you're going to have to do to get that number.
Right.
Let's think it through that way.
Right. You are right on the money, seriously. And I have to do that with my clients. And I have to start off with, that's why I have to start off with sales, because I need them to understand if this is the salary or the business that the numbers that you want to create, then this is the kind of packages that needs to happen. This is how many hours per week we need to do. And this is the price point that we need to have. Are you okay with asking for this? Because if you're not, then you're not going to get to that number at all. And I think what's really difficult sometimes, and a problem that I face is, I created the business so that I can work with small businesses and so they can have public relations access in the local area, because a lot of businesses don't. And I didn't want them to be fearful of I didn't want them to be fearful of how much I cost, but with the amount of work that's put in, I couldn't let my numbers go down. So, but I still want them to have access to public relations services in the local area. So I kind of battle between those things, but that's why I created comprehensive packages that works for certain levels of business. If you can't do A, then let's look at B. If you have just a rebranding issue, then that's 2 weeks of service. So it's like I had to go in and recalibrate, but I've only been able to do that because of my many years in business. I wouldn't have known if I first started. And also having someone train me and mentor me into understanding what salary I wanted, what I deserved, and the value that I had to offer to get what I wanted.
You're not getting, an hour of service. You're getting 15 years of my brain doing this thing towards that service. And that's a different way to look at it.
Yeah. And those particular services, I mean, whatever the client is in need of, I do it in such a way that, yes, I can build your brand in a day. That's one of my VIP intensives. We literally go to a 5-star hotel. I pay for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We sit down with the computer. You have iconic materials. You have iconic merch. You have my brain. And for a certain amount of money, you have an intensive for a day, and you have a whole brand. So it's build your brand in a day, or you can build your brand in a year, which is basically the leading service. So that's why I'm excited about it, because there's so many different options for different levels of business, and whether it's in the local area or not.
Tim?
Yeah, I think another challenge that I'm sure you've experienced, we've all experienced, is our region has a tendency to want to copy what other metropolitan areas do. So we have to do what Nashville did, or we have to do what Atlanta's doing. And that's a challenge as well. So it's like, we've got to believe in ourselves. We've got to support one another. We, at the end of the day, we are very different from all of those places. We have to embrace. Right.
Yeah, it is. It's a selling point for sure.
I mean, I'm tired of hearing, we need to look at how this place is doing it or how that place is doing it. And it's like, how about we just look at how we should be doing it and make it happen?
I mean, these organizations go on regional trips to different places to literally just try to pick their brains and try to figure out stuff. It's like, come on,
and
guys.
At that point, it's too late.
Right. I mean, to create the foundation of whatever they're picking their brain about, you have to go back and think you're going to recreate it. Looking at someone's Instagram, Facebook page, or website and recreating it is not building the foundation or the framework that's going to be successful. So you can't copy. It's going to have to be tailor-made. It's going to have to stand out. And especially, people can feel when it's authentic or not. Like, thinking that you're going to copy Miami or New York City, for instance, it doesn't work that way. For one, I haven't seen a company like my company, and I'm not even trying to be funny. Even Translation, the company I just spoke about, they're very different in what I do. I just admire them. A lot of public relations company, I see what they're doing, but I just admire them. It hasn't changed my framework whatsoever because I know what I'm good at. But as far as copying in the region, copying literally in this marketplace, I've been copied from so many times, it's ridiculous. That's why I had to add intellectual property, trade secrets. I had to get trademark for Iconic. I'm working on my next trademark now so that I don't have to run into the legal issues that's happening with people stealing ideas, because people can't come up with anything for SHIT. Did I just post that and then somebody else is going to blow back and post the same thing and then tag it that they did it? So it's just.
Well, I'm stealing your "say no to bad" branding line. I'm sorry. I'm copying left.
Take that, because my job is to come up with ideas. So I'm gonna come up with another one by the time we get off of here. But
well, I mean, if you look at how we digested just this show, so Zack, you shared that a campaign took 11 and a half months to take.
With a lot of money being pushed out towards that too.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to charge. I had a company in Chesapeake. Company charged them $6,000. A very well-known local PR company, $6,000. I'm sorry, not $6,000. 6 figures, and they came up with the most minuscule ideas possible. And I was like, I can't believe I'm looking at this proposal and y'all are charging. 6 figures.
I mean, so if you look at, hey, we're going to start this new campaign. We're going to take a trip to Nashville, for example, just picking a city. We're going to take a trip to Nashville. We're going to look at all the things that they're doing and then try to replicate it. I mean, the thing, my point is that Nashville had to build that brand probably over 3, 4, 5 years. And then there was another year of planning that went on to that. So now you're talking 4, 5, 6 year old branding plan that you're trying to do. And then it's going to take us another year or two to figure out a plan to start implementing it. It's just like, at that point, it's already too late. The market has moved on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and what worked for them won't work for you because that sale is passed.
Number one. Yep. That's absolutely true.
I mean, it's just like the whole thing. If you've read about the stock tip on the news, it's already too late. You know, that stock has moved up or down.
Unless you're doing it on GameStop on Twitter and then follow away.
Even that, man, you're still the bag holder, man. It's just way too late.
Mm-hmm. And I think when people understand and realize that as business owners, they're going to see like, okay, we need to really put some more money into the public relations space, into the innovation space, because I don't think people really understand that I'm already thinking about 2024. All my content is already done for the entire year. And it's what, May? Like, I've started this September last year. So my content is already done. And now I can put in individual pieces of content in between what I've already created. But I'm a writer by nature. Zack knows this. I've been writing for years. So it's nothing for me to come up with content. However, now I'm thinking about, what am I going to do next year? How am I going to stand out? What tools are available on social media so that I'm not in overdrive? I know I can't do everything. I know I can't do a whole 3-4 reels a day and a whole bunch of stories, but I know that I know how to intelligently speak about my industry, and I can help business owners. And that's literally like 2 to 3 different pieces of content a week. That's it. Anything else I can just kind of put in there as far as marketing trends are concerned, as far as breaking news is concerned, or as far as different branding ideas and tips or whatever is concerned. But all of those things are inputted way beforehand. So once people understand that, especially, I'm not saying content is king and everything is content, but people want to be seen as industry leaders. People want to be seen as experts. They want to be seen as scholars, but they don't want to put the work that it takes to get to it. And that's where I run into kind of issues with business owners. Is I want to do public speaking. I want to write a book. I want to I don't know. I want to, do different pieces of content. I want to do tips every day. I want to do question and answer. They want to do a whole bunch of stuff, but you're not willing to put in the work to really get the DNA out there so people can believe you.
Preach.
We're not doing this for fun.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I went on a tangent there, but that's
how it's all stuff that we talk about on this show and have many, many times.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then people can't be afraid of tech. Like, I'd be surprised. Like, people want me to do everything for you, but I can't do that for everybody, right? But they're scared to get on the technology platform, or they don't understand it, or they're not willing to learn about it.
That's fine, but guess what? Everyone else is on technology, so
right. Wait, did he freeze? Zack, are you there? Come back.
Yeah.
Zack.
This is it's our Thursday challenge that we typically have. I'm surprised. Yeah. Zack will normally freeze up right around this time every Thursday. And I don't want to say anything, but typically I will have airplane noise flying overhead, which it's been really, really quiet today, but
That's
welcome
because
back, Zach.
I'm on. But I do have a question for you guys. How do you guys feel about like the networking events that happen? Because I don't go out much, and I know COVID happened and all that stuff, and people are just now starting to go back out. But what's worth it as far as networking events is concerned? Because I don't know. It seems like it'd be overwhelming amount of events that's happening, and people in incubators and accelerators. And how do you have an entrepreneur kind of sparse out what's worth it and what's not? Because it seems like there's a lot that's happening out here.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that ask me what are the events that are worth going to, and I mean, I think it's probably the same with what you say. It's content, it's value of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in going to I don't even know what they call those groups. Where I'm not interested in going to a business card passing type of event. That's just not that's not my thing. To me, I would much rather meet one or two people and have a meaningful conversation that I'm like, once this is done, I want to continue on the conversation and let's grab coffee or lunch or keep the conversation going. Those are the things that I'm looking for. And just like we were talking about, I think there's a lot of copy things that go on. Oh, they're doing this event, so we're going to do this event. And then, I guess it's tough. I would look at what are the what events have the longest, been doing it the longest, because
track record.
They've proven themselves to be worth it.
I would say look at what you're looking to get out of it. Right. And so if you're looking to be educated on a specific topic, maybe go to one of those educational events. If you're looking to just network, meet as many people as possible, try to find groups that have your target customers in there, and then just go make friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try and sell them. That's how I would look at it. I was at a networking event last night. I've said that 4 times now. And
is Jake paying you?
No, Jake pays me. Yeah, Jake pays. Go to networkinghappyhour.com. I think it's networkinghh.com. I think you just got to figure out what you're looking for, right? And so, and if you take a risk and that event sucks, just put that on your do not attend list, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no harm in going to some of these things. There's plenty of events. I remember in 2010, the thing was, hey, there's only a handful of things to do a week or a month. And now there's a lot more things to do every week, sometimes multiples on every day.
Right.
Those are good things. Just find the ones that make sense, that are around the crowd, that makes sense for you, and take a couple risks. And sometimes if they suck, they suck. If they're great, they're great. I do like the idea of long tenured events. I think that's a good way to look at it. If something's still around and has been around for a long time, maybe there's a good backbone to that as to why. So
absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking to get Iconic back out there, and maybe you guys will see me face to face eventually.
Little plug for May 18th. We're doing our HR Biz Wheel Quarterly Expo. The 18th.
I just saw that.
At the Slover. Yep.
I'm going to be there. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh wait, can I get more information on the website? You guys are right.
Startwheel.org/events.
But to your point, when I first started Startwheel, we would have a handful of events a week. Now on our calendar, we average over 50 events a month that are on our calendar. So there's a lot to choose from.
Wait, can y'all see me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know where anyway. No, I messed around and went to the website, and now I got to go back through my many tabs because I'm OCD and I hate to get rid of tabs. But anyway, thank you for answering that. Oh, here you go. Thank you for answering that. Like, I'm just looking forward to getting back out there. I'm looking forward to meeting new business owners, but more importantly, it's about the value and the time that I receive from them. But I'll definitely be at the event on the 18th.
Yeah, sure. I look forward to seeing you.
Yay!
We have a big announcement that we're going to make.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, I like big announcements.
Mhm.
Has to do with the. I'm sure it has to do with the entrepreneurship community.
It does.
Very cool. Pam, we appreciate your time, and
Okay.
everyone, you can check her out and Iconic at thebrandingicon.com.
.com. Thank you.
Until next Thursday, peace.
So
Bye, you
long.
guys.